The first time he kissed me, I laughed. Not because it was funny, God, it was anything but because I was drunk enough to believe I imagined it. Who the hell confesses under fireworks when the whole world is watching? Only someone like him. Only someone reckless enough to make me question everything I thought I knew about us. That night, the festival spun around me in dizzy colors. Neon lights, fried food, and the sweet burn of whiskey in my veins. I'd been stumbling, grinning like an idiot, when his hand caught mine, steady, warm, too real. And then, under the booming sky, his lips were on mine, soft and urgent. I like you, he whispered against the crackle of light, and my stupid heart believed him. But the morning after, reality came crashing in. Hungover, head pounding, I told myself it was the alcohol. A trick of the fireworks. Nothing more than a drunk hallucination. Because believing it was real meant admitting I wanted him too, and that was dangerous. His name was Caleb Hayes. The boy who had been both my best friend and my worst complication since high school. The one who always teased me, protected me, and drove me absolutely insane. He wasn't supposed to be the one pulling me into the kind of storm you don't walk out of unscathed. We grew up in a town where people noticed everything. Two guys being too close was enough to set off rumors. And Caleb? He was the golden boy, the quarterback, the hometown hero, the one mothers trusted and fathers respected. Me? I was the sarcastic one, the kid who never quite fit the mold. The idea of us together didn't just feel impossible, it felt dangerous. So when he looked at me that morning, expecting something, I shut down. I laughed it off. I told him he'd imagined it, that I didn't remember a thing. His face fell. God, I can still see it, but I convinced myself it was safer that way. Safer to pretend nothing happened. Safer to bury it. But Caleb Hayes has never been the type to let things go. The weeks after the festival were hell. He'd show up at my house with that infuriating smirk, toss popcorn at me during movie nights, and act like everything was normal. But then there were the moments, tiny, fleeting, that made my chest tighten. His hand brushing mine when we reached for the same soda. The way his gaze lingered just a beat too long. The silence that hung heavy between us, filled with words neither of us dared to say. One night, he cornered me in his truck after practice. The rain was pounding on the windshield, the kind of storm that made the world feel both suffocating and intimate. He killed the engine, turned to me, and asked, "Why are you pretending it didn't happen?" I forced a laugh, but it cracked halfway through. Because it didn't. We were drunk, Caleb. You were drunk. I was drunk. People do stupid shit when they're wasted. His jaw tightened. I wasn't drunk. And even if I was, don't you dare call what I feel for you stupid. That silenced me. Because in that moment, there was no teasing, no bravado, just raw, terrifying honesty in his voice. And I hated myself for wanting to believe him. The problem was, once you let yourself notice, you couldn't stop. I started seeing it everywhere. In the way he always saved me a seat at games, in how he carried 2 coffees every morning and handed one to me without asking how I took it. In the way he looked at me like I was more than just his sarcastic sidekick. And maybe I should have been braver. Maybe I should have grabbed him by the collar, kissed him, and admitted the truth. But fear is a powerful thing. Fear of rejection, of judgment, of ruining the only friendship that had ever truly mattered. So I stayed silent. Until the night everything broke. It was another party. Another stupid night with too much alcohol and too many people crammed into someone's backyard. I'd been standing off to the side, nursing a beer I didn't even want, when I saw him, Caleb, laughing with a girl I barely knew, her hand on his arm, her lips dangerously close to his ear. Something inside me snapped. I don't remember crossing the lawn, but suddenly I was there, yanking him away like I had any right to. His eyes widened, startled, and then narrowed as realization hit. What the hell, Eli? I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "Because you're mine." Instead, I shoved him. Hard. Go ahead, Hayes. Keep proving it was all in my head. Keep pretending you don't. My voice broke. You don't care. The backyard fell silent around us. People stared. Caleb's chest rose and fell, his jaw tight. Then, without a word, he grabbed my wrist and pulled me out of there. The world blurred until it was just us, standing under the harsh glow of a street lamp. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear when he finally spoke. "You think I don't care?" His voice shook with anger, maybe hurt. "Eli, I kissed you because I wanted to. I told you I liked you because I meant it. And if you're too damn scared to admit you feel the same, fine. But don't you dare say I don't care." My throat burned. The words I'd been choking on for weeks clawed their way out before I could stop them. "I do care, you idiot. I care too much. That's the problem." And then it was his turn to laugh, not cruel, but relieved. Like he'd been waiting for this moment forever. Before I could think, before fear could win again, his lips crashed into mine. And this time I didn't convince myself it was just an illusion. The kiss lingered like fire on my lips, even after he pulled away. His chest was rising and falling as if he'd just run miles, and his hand was still gripping my wrist like he thought I might disappear if he let go. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The world had narrowed to the sound of our ragged breathing and the lonely hum of the streetlight above. I wanted to say something, anything, but words felt too fragile, too small for what had just happened. So I did the only thing my terrified brain could manage. I stepped back. Caleb's hand slipped reluctantly from mine, and his face hardened instantly, like a door slamming shut. "Right?" he muttered, looking away. "That's what I thought." My throat clenched. "What the hell does that mean?" "It means you're still gonna run," he snapped, eyes flashing as he turned back to me. "You always run, Eli. From me, from yourself, from everything that scares you. And I'm sick of chasing you." The words hit me harder than the kiss had, because they were true. "I'm not," my voice cracked, pathetic. "I'm not running. I just..." "What?" He took a step closer, and I could smell the faint mix of sweat and rain on his skin. "You just what? Need more time? More excuses? How many times do I have to tell you I want you before you believe it?" I hated him in that moment. Hated him for seeing through me, for cornering me where I had nowhere left to hide. But I hated myself more for being too afraid to reach out, to hold him, to say the words clawing at my throat. So I did what I always did. I shoved the truth back down and turned away. "I can't do this, Caleb." The silence that followed was heavy, crushing. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter, broken in a way I'd never heard before. "Then maybe I can't either." And just like that, he walked away. The next few days were a blur of emptiness. I avoided him at school, skipped the diner where we usually hung out, and buried myself in meaningless distractions: homework, video games, helping my dad with the garage. Anything to avoid the gaping hole his absence carved in me. But the thing about small towns is you can't escape someone forever. I saw him at the grocery store with his mom, his laugh echoing down the aisle like nothing had happened. I saw him at football practice, his body moving with its usual effortless grace, his voice carrying across the field. And every time, my chest twisted painfully, because I knew he was pretending too. At night, I replayed it all. The fireworks, the kiss, the way his voice cracked when he said he couldn't do this. And every time, my stupid heart whispered the same truth I refused to say out loud. I loved him. But how do you love someone when the whole world is telling you it's wrong? It was late one Saturday when the universe finally forced my hand. I was at a bonfire party by the lake, surrounded by people I didn't care about, sipping on cheap beer that tasted like ash. I hadn't even wanted to come, but my best friend Casey had dragged me out, insisting I needed to stop moping like some sad house cat. I was halfway through pretending to listen to some guy talk about his truck when I saw him. Caleb. He was across the fire, sitting on the tailgate of his truck with a couple of guys from the team. He looked relaxed, smiling easily, but I knew better. I knew that smile. It was armor. My chest tightened as I watched him. He looked up suddenly, and our eyes locked across the flames. For a heartbeat, everything else faded: the laughter, the music, the crackle of firewood. Just him and me, staring like the world was about to split open. And then she appeared. Some girl, pretty, blonde, the type of girl everyone expected Caleb to be with, slipped into the space beside him. She leaned close, laughing at something he said, and her hand brushed his knee like it belonged there. Something in me snapped. Before I could think, I was on my feet, crossing the clearing. I barely heard Casey calling after me. My pulse roared in my ears as I shoved past people, heat from the fire licking at my skin until I was standing right in front of him. Caleb's eyes widened. Eli, I didn't let him finish. Do you want to make me lose my mind? I hissed, loud enough for him but probably loud enough for everyone else too. Because congratulations, it's working. The girl blinked, confused. Caleb stood quickly, his jaw tightening. Not here, he muttered, grabbing my arm. But I was past caring, past hiding. Why not here? Why not now? You want me to stop running? Fine. My voice shook, but I forced the words out anyway. I can't stop thinking about you. Every damn second, Caleb. And it scares the shit out of me. But you know what? I don't care anymore. The silence that followed was deafening. Faces turned, whispers rippled through the crowd. The fire cracked loud in the night. Caleb's grip on my arm loosened, his eyes searching mine like he didn't quite believe what he'd heard. Say it again. My throat burned, but I did. I love you, you stubborn bastard. The world exploded not with fireworks this time, but with the sound of him pulling me in, his mouth crashing against mine. And for once, I didn't care who was watching. Of course, the fallout was immediate. By Monday morning, the whole school knew. The whispers followed us down the hallways, curious stares clung to us like shadows, and the rumors spread faster than wildfire. Some were cruel, some were just stupid, but none of them compared to the way Caleb walked beside me, shoulders squared, daring anyone to say it to our faces. Doesn't it bother you? I asked him once as we sat in his truck after school. What? That people know. Yeah. He looked at me like I just asked if water was wet. No, Eli. What bothers me is that you still think we should care. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But part of me still braced for impact, for rejection, for disappointment, for the moment this fragile, beautiful thing would crumble. Because nothing this good was meant to last. And deep down, I knew the storm hadn't even hit us yet. The stares were the worst part. Not the whispers, those I could handle. Not even the occasional shove in the hallway or the muttered slurs that slipped past clenched teeth. It was the way people looked at us, like we'd suddenly turned into something foreign, something worth gawking at. By Wednesday, I'd memorized every kind of stare. The curious ones, wide-eyed and hungry for drama. The judgmental ones, sharp as knives. And the ones that hurt the most, the disappointed, pitying looks from teachers, neighbors, even people I thought didn't give a damn. I hated it. But Caleb? Caleb walked like he owned the hallways, like he hadn't just kissed me in front of half the town 2 nights ago. His chin was high, his stride steady, and when people whispered too loudly, he'd throw them a glare that could freeze blood. Still, even he couldn't shield me from everything. That afternoon, as I fumbled with my locker, a voice rang out behind me. Didn't know faggots came in pairs. The hallway went silent. I froze, my fingers slipping on the lock. Slowly, I turned. A couple of guys from the football team stood there, sneers plastered across their faces. Before I could open my mouth, Caleb was there. He stepped between me and them, his body tense, fists clenched. Say that again, he growled. One of them smirked. What? You gonna kiss him in front of us too? The punch came so fast I barely saw it. Caleb's fist connected with the guy's jaw, the crack echoing down the hallway. Screams erupted, teachers rushed in, and suddenly we were being dragged in opposite directions. My heart was still racing when Principal Morris slammed the office door behind us. Caleb sat in the chair beside me, his lips split, knuckles bleeding, but his eyes blazed with pride. You're suspended for 3 days, Morris said flatly. Both of you. And I'll be calling your parents. I groaned, sinking lower in my chair. But Caleb just leaned back, smirking like he'd won something. When we finally stepped outside, the late afternoon sun glaring down, I snapped. What the hell was that, Caleb? You just made everything worse. He wiped the blood from his lip with the back of his hand. He deserved it. That's not the point. My voice cracked. You think this is a game? That if you fight everyone who says something, we'll come out of this fine? We won't. We're screwed, Caleb. His smirk faltered, and for once he looked almost uncertain. So what, we just let them say whatever they want? I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Because what was the right answer? Stay silent. Let them tear us apart piece by piece? Or fight, risk losing everything else we had left? I didn't know. All I knew was that for the first time in my life, I wasn't just fighting the world. I was fighting myself. At home, the storm hit harder. My dad didn't shout. That almost made it worse. He just stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, his face carved from stone. 3 days, Eli. Suspended. And for what? Getting into trouble over him. The way he said it like Caleb was a problem, a mistake, not a person, made my stomach twist. It wasn't my fault, I muttered, staring at the floor. Dad's voice sharpened. Then whose was it? You think people aren't talking? You think I don't hear the whispers at the shop, the looks at church? This isn't just about you, son. This family has a name in this town. I flinched. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him I didn't care about the damn family name, that I cared about Caleb. But my tongue felt heavy, glued to the roof of my mouth. Mom tried to step in, her voice soft. Maybe give him some space, Jim. He's figuring things out. Dad cut her off. Space? He doesn't need space. He needs to get his head on straight before he throws his whole future away. That was when I snapped. My future? You mean your version of it? Newsflash, Dad. Maybe I don't want the same things you do. The silence after was deafening. His jaw clenched, his eyes hard. As long as you live under my roof, you'll think about more than yourself, Eli. I stormed out before he could say more, my chest burning with words I couldn't let out. Caleb's house was different. His mom greeted me with a hug, even though Caleb had a bandage over his knuckles and a bruise blossoming on his cheek. Don't let people get to you, she whispered, squeezing my shoulder. They'll talk no matter what you do. What matters is you don't let them change who you are. Her words made my throat ache. I wanted to tell her everything, how scared I was, how much I hated myself for not being braver. But all I could do was nod. Later, in his room, Caleb sat on the edge of his bed, staring at me like he was waiting for me to break. You okay? He asked softly. I laughed bitterly. Not really. Me neither. That was the thing about him. He never sugarcoated it. Never pretended things were easier than they were. I sat beside him, close enough that our shoulders brushed. For a moment, we just breathed together, the silence between us heavy but comforting. Then he reached out, hesitated, and finally laced his fingers through mine. I don't care what they say, he murmured. I don't care if the whole damn town turns on us. I need you to stop running. My chest tightened, and for once I didn't pull away. I'm trying, I whispered. God, Caleb, I'm trying. His thumb brushed over my hand, steady, grounding. Then that's enough. And for the first time since the fireworks, I let myself believe it might be true. But belief only carries you so far. Because the truth is, we were still two boys in a town that wasn't ready for us. And sooner or later, that town was going to push back harder than ever. We just didn't know how much it would cost. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that secrets can only survive in the dark for so long. By the time summer began to fade, our lives were no longer whispers behind lockers or rumors at the diner. They were headlines in the only paper this town cared about, the kind made of gossip and judgment. Everyone had an opinion about Caleb and me. Some were quietly supportive, some loudly cruel, and some, like my dad, were torn between silence and rage. For weeks, every day felt like a battle. Caleb and I would walk into a room and the air would shift. Friends disappeared, replaced by stares and whispers. Teachers avoided our eyes, neighbors crossed streets. At night, I'd lie awake, wondering if it was worth it, wondering if maybe my dad was right, if maybe love wasn't enough to survive a town like this. But Caleb never flinched. One evening, as we sat by the lake with the last of summer buzzing around us, I finally said it. Maybe we should. I don't know. Stop. Take a break. Let things calm down. His head snapped toward me, eyes sharp, voice low. If you're trying to end this, just say it. I'm not, I whispered. I just don't want your life ruined because of me. He stared at me for a long time, then leaned closer until our foreheads touched. Eli, my life without you isn't a life I want. Let them talk. Let them choke on it for all I care. You're worth it. The conviction in his voice was so raw, so certain, it tore down something inside me I'd been holding up for months. For the first time, I believed we could actually survive this. But survival didn't mean the storm stopped. The real breaking point came at the homecoming game. Caleb was still captain, still quarterback, still the one everyone pinned their hopes on. The stands were packed that night, the whole town buzzing with energy. But instead of cheers when he ran onto the field, there were jeers, mutters. A banner unfurled across the bleachers with words that cut deep. Disgrace to the team. I was in the stands, my stomach dropping as I watched him pause, helmet in hand, staring up at the words. For a heartbeat, I thought he might walk off the field. But then he did what Caleb always did. He lifted his chin, put his helmet on, and played like the world wasn't burning around him. They won, of course. He threw the winning touchdown in the last 30 seconds, the stadium exploding into cheers despite everything. But when the game ended, the team gathered on the field, and one of his own teammates shoved him, shouting something I couldn't hear. It turned into chaos, shouting, pushing, coaches separating bodies. I leapt down from the stands, heart pounding, fighting through the crowd until I reached him. He was bleeding again, lips split, but when he saw me, he grinned through it. Worth it, he muttered, breathless. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him to stop being a martyr, but all I could do was grab his hand, grounding both of us as the stadium lights blazed overhead. That was the moment I realized we weren't going back. We couldn't. We'd already set fire to the version of us that hid in the shadows. The only choice left was to keep walking forward, no matter how much it burned. The night of the fall festival, everything changed. The town square was alive with lights, music, and food stands. The smell of caramel apples and popcorn hanging in the air. Families laughed, kids ran around with sparklers, and for once it almost felt normal. Almost. We stuck close together, not daring to touch, though every brush of his shoulder against mine made my skin spark. My nerves were buzzing, not from the crowd, but from the weight of something building between us. And then it happened. The fireworks began, bright explosions painting the night sky. People tilted their heads back in awe, gasps echoing through the square. And under that blazing sky, Caleb turned to me. Eli. His voice was steady, louder than the crowd, louder than the fireworks. My breath caught. I'm done hiding, he said. I'm done pretending we're something less than what we are. I love you, and I don't care who hears it. And then, in front of the whole damn town, he kissed me. It wasn't rushed or stolen or hidden. It was slow, certain, the kind of kiss that claimed space, that dared anyone to look away. My knees nearly buckled, but his hands steadied me, holding me like he always had, like I was worth fighting for. The world went silent around us. When I pulled back, the fireworks still rained overhead, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat. And then applause. Not from everyone, not even from most, but from enough. A small group of people clapped, cheered, even whistled. Among them, Caleb's mom, tears shining in her eyes, clapping proudly. I searched the crowd and caught my dad's face. His jaw was tight, his expression unreadable. For a moment, fear clawed through me. But then, slowly, he nodded. Just once. Not approval, not acceptance, not yet. But not rejection either. A step forward. It was enough. That night, we ended up on the hood of Caleb's truck by the lake, fireworks fading into smoke in the distance. You really didn't have to do that? I whispered, though my lips still tingled. Yes, I did, he replied, leaning back, one arm around me. You deserve to be loved out loud, Eli. Not in secret. I rested my head on his shoulder, the weight of months of fear finally easing. So do you. The silence stretched, but it was soft now, filled with the chirp of crickets and the hum of night. For once, I wasn't scared of tomorrow. Not of whispers, not of judgment, not of storms we hadn't yet faced. Because no matter what came, we'd face it together. And under the fading glow of fireworks, with his arm around me and the taste of his kiss still lingering, I finally believed in us. Love had never been easy. It had been messy, painful, terrifying. But it was real. And sometimes, real was more than enough. Because he confessed under the fireworks. And this time, I knew it wasn't an illusion. It was forever. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.